When I found out that Chadwick Boseman passed away from cancer, I was just really sad for the next couple days, and I wasn't really sure why, aside from the obvious. What was really interesting to me was that he never told anybody about his diagnosis for the last 4 years. And what really stuck out to me was how he chose to spend his time during his last days. There were 2 instances that stuck out to me. The first one was when he would visit children with cancer in the hospital. Even though he was terminally ill, he would still visit children that were terminally ill. It's like, it was just so thoughtful. Imagine, he had all the money in the world, all the fame. He was a literal superhero on a global scale. He knew his time was limited. So with all the money, with all the fame, with all the success, he chose to spend his limited time giving hope. And the second instance was when he spoke at his alma mater, Howard University, giving guidance, inspiration, and of course, hope. I remember thinking, what would drive someone who has everything to spend the remainder of their life serving other people? And that's when I heard him in a speech literally say it was about living with purpose. Chadwick Boseman knew his purpose, and it was about giving hope, especially to the African American community. So when you listen to his interviews, it was very clear how convicted he was of providing hope, of challenging stereotypes. Chadwick knew his purpose and he lived it. In an interview, he talked about having his first big break on the soap opera All My Children. He was gonna play an African American gangster who was a foster child. So when Chadwick read the script, he kind of felt uncomfortable because he felt like it was a stereotype to African Americans. When he shot the first episode, he did really well, and the producers called him in and just wanted to talk to him. Chadwick asked about his character's history, why he was a foster child. Chadwick asked, where's his father? And the producer said, oh, the father left. And Chadwick knew that, this might be a reality for some people out there. So he asked, okay, then where's his mother? And the producer said, of course, she's a heroin addict. And Chadwick was just very uncomfortable with that. He thought of giving this character hope. He wanted to give the character hope. So he asked, well, what if he was really good at math? That way he can have a talent to maybe have some hope for himself in the future. Chadwick even said that one of the producers looked at his resume, put it back in his desk and said, it was nice to meet you. We'll see you around. And then so Chadwick left. A week later, Chadwick gets a phone call from his agent saying, hey, producers chose to go a different direction, which meant that he was fired. And this happened when he was broke and starting out. So basically, Chadwick risked his career so that this TV character, who he felt was a stereotype, a racial stereotype, could have a sense of hope. Chadwick would later go on to explain that at the time, he really didn't have money, but he just couldn't bear not voicing his thoughts on it. He knew his purpose from the beginning, and he knew that playing that character wouldn't provide hope to others, especially the way they wrote that character out to be. So the show ended up changing the character with some of Chadwick's feedback, and they gave it to a new actor, giving this actor their first big break. And this actor was Michael B. Jordan. Yes, Michael, Creed 1, Creed 2, Killmonger, Just Mercy, B. Jordan. Jordan would later write about how Chadwick paved the way for him with that role. So Boseman would later go on to play iconic figures like James Brown, Jackie Robinson, and of course, T'Challa, Black Panther. And I wondered if Chadwick would have gotten those roles anyways if he had chosen to compromise his standards in the beginning when he got his first big break. Chadwick also fought for African accents in the Black Panther. So Chadwick said that the 2 options that they gave him were to use his regular American accent or a British accent. And that would mean that Wakanda was colonized when it wasn't. Chadwick actually used the Xhosa dialect, or Xhosa. I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm sure. Back in the Civil War Captain America movie, he based it off of Nelson Mandela. And this decision allowed all the other cast members to use other African dialects, which helped solidify Wakanda as a collection of powerful tribes. So from his first role to his last role, Chadwick always chose to live with purpose. And I think that's what made his passing so tragic. He was a man who knew his calling, who knew his purpose, and he lived it. Every single moment he got, even if it was uncomfortable, From undergoing surgery and chemotherapy for the last 4 years and still continuing to act and perform his craft, from speaking at a commencement speech to provide guidance, to surprising fans, to visiting terminally ill children when he himself was terminally ill. And we'll never know why Chadwick chose not to tell anyone about his diagnosis. I don't think he was being a martyr. I think he just was so focused on his purpose and he just wanted to live the rest of his life just focused on that. I guess he knew all along that the purpose of life is to live with a purpose. So while his movies inspired the world, it's what he did outside of the screen that inspired me. He chose to live with purpose.
Hear me well on this day. When you have reached the hilltop and you are deciding on next jobs, next steps, careers, further education, you would rather find purpose than a job or a career. Purpose crosses disciplines. Purpose is an essential element of you. It is the reason you are on the planet at this particular time in history. Your very existence is wrapped up in the things you are here to fulfill. Whatever you choose for a career path, remember the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. I don't know what your future is, but if you're willing to take the harder way, the more complicated one, the one with more failures at first than successes, the one that has ultimately proven to have more meaning, more victory, more glory, then you will not regret it. As you commence to your past, press on with pride and press on with purpose. God bless you. I love you, Howard. Howard forever.